I stepped into the living room with Mark, the man I had been secretly involved with for months. My husband, John, was sitting on the couch, absorbed in a TV program. His face lit up with a warm smile when he saw me enter. But the expression quickly faded as his eyes landed on Mark standing by my side. "John, we need to talk," I said, my voice unsteady. John switched off the TV and turned toward me. Confusion etched across his face. "This is Mark," I continued, gesturing toward him. "He wants you to share me with him, and we can't refuse." The color drained from John's face. He didn't say a word. Instead, he abruptly stood, his movement stiff, and walked out of the room without a glance back. The sound of the toilet flushing broke the heavy silence that followed, leaving Mark and me frozen, unsure of what was to come. Mark shrugged, his calm demeanor betraying no sign of worry. The air grew thicker with tension as we stood there in silence, each passing moment making the room feel smaller. My eyes darted to the closed door, and I found myself wondering what John might be planning, imagining the storm of emotions raging within him. After what felt like an eternity, I heard footsteps. John reappeared, his face unreadable, holding something in his hand. It was a small silver keychain that glinted under the light as it swung from his fingers. "What's that?" I asked, my voice barely audible. John's expression remained composed, his gaze steady. "This," he said, his tone unnervingly calm, "is the key to a new beginning." The weight of his words hung heavily in the air, leaving me unable to fully grasp their meaning. Beside me, Mark shifted uneasily, sensing the gravity of the moment. John's voice, though controlled, carried a sharp edge of anger. "You brought another man into our home, into our marriage, and now you expect me to just accept this?" His words hit me like a blow, forcing me to confront the weight of my choices and their consequences. My throat tightened as I tried to speak. "John, He cut me off, his tone cold and unyielding. "You've made your decision," he said firmly. "Now, you will both have to deal with the fallout." Without another word, John turned and left the room, leaving Mark and me stunned. The silence between us was thick with uncertainty. Minutes later, John returned, carrying a small wooden box, the one where we kept our wedding rings. My heart sank. He opened the box slowly, revealing its empty interior. "I flushed our wedding rings down the toilet," he said, his voice disturbingly calm but heavy with emotion. "We won't be needing them anymore." The weight of his actions hit me like a tidal wave, the finality of it all stealing the breath from my lungs. I turned to Mark, who stood there awkwardly, his face betraying his discomfort. John placed the empty box on the coffee table with deliberate care, then returned to the couch. He sat with an air of quiet confidence, but his eyes burned with an intensity one had never seen before. The room fell eerily silent, save for the distant hum of appliances and the steady ticking of the clock. I struggled to find words, desperate to make sense of the chaos inside me. "John, why?" I finally managed, my voice trembling. His response sliced through the silence, sharp and saturated with pain. "Because you brought another man into our marriage, into our home, and thought things could stay the same?" The truth in his words was a knife to my heart, a reminder of the destruction I had caused. Guilt churned within me, and a deep, gnawing fear of what lay ahead rooted me in place. Mark shifted beside me, clearing his throat in an attempt to ease the tension. "John, maybe we can—" "There is no we," John interrupted, his voice firm and unwavering, his piercing gaze fixed on me. His words left no room for doubt, driving home the reality of what I had done. The gravity of his actions and the symbolic gesture of discarding our wedding rings struck me deeply, a sharp reminder of the reality I had created. Tears brimmed in my eyes, a torrent of regret and despair threatening to engulf me. As days turned into weeks, the consequences of my decisions bore down on me like an unyielding storm, inescapable and relentless. I couldn't shake the memories, the look in John's eyes, the finality in his voice, the undeniable truth of the life I had shattered. Sleep became a distant memory, my nights haunted by visions of what might have been had I chosen differently. At first, Mark tried to support me, offering kind words and fleeting gestures of reassurance. But as time went on, his visits grew less frequent, and he began to shy away from conversations about the past. His comforting words turned hollow, and I could feel him slipping through my fingers, just as everything else in my life had. One evening, as we sat in the dimly lit stillness of my apartment, Mark finally broke the silence. "I don't think I can do this anymore," he said, his voice laden with fatigue and sorrow. His words pierced the fragile remnants of my heart. "What are you saying?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me with a mix of pity and regret. Us. It's just too much. I thought we could make it work, but everything is falling apart. You've changed, and to be honest, so have I. Tears stung my eyes as his words sank in. He was right. Our relationship had been built on deceit and betrayal, a foundation that was never meant to hold. It was no wonder it was crumbling now. Mark stood, avoiding my gaze as he gathered his belongings. "I'm sorry," he said softly, his voice cracking. "I hope you find peace, but I can't do this anymore." And with that, he was gone. The emptiness Mark left behind was unbearable, a hollow void in my chest that I couldn't seem to fill. I was left utterly alone, forced to face the aftermath of my actions. My apartment became a suffocating prison, haunted by echoes of regret and the ghosts of a life I had forfeited. Supervised visits with my children were a bittersweet reminder of everything I had lost. Their innocent faces lit up when they saw me, but confusion clouded their eyes. They didn't understand why I couldn't be with them anymore. "Why can't you stay, Mommy?" my youngest asked one day, clutching her stuffed animal close. I mustered a smile, swallowing the lump in my throat as I fought back tears. "Mommy just has to stay somewhere else for a little while." "Sweetheart," I said, my voice barely steady. John was always present for the court-mandated exchanges, his demeanor calm but distant. He rarely spoke more than necessary, his actions methodical and detached. His composed presence was a constant reminder of the man I had wronged. One day, after a particularly difficult visit, John stopped me as I turned to leave. His voice was calm but firm, his words cutting straight through me. "If you want to fix anything, you got a lot of work to do," he said. "I don't think you fully understand the damage you've caused." I opened my mouth to respond, to defend myself, but his words left me speechless. Deep down, I knew he was right.